for everyone who deeply respects, loves, and reveres all things holy that honor God, for anyone who acknowledges His power and wishes to please and obey Him. This is the Salvation Report.
Salvation.
And now, here is your host, world-renowned author and researcher, Robert Stanley.
Hello and welcome to another Salvation Report. I'm your host, Robert Stanley. As you just heard there in the intro, today is Thursday, August 21st. I don't know where the time's going. Hope you're having a good time. I'm happy and healthy down here in southern Florida. We missed another hurricane. Thank God. Those are not fun. Let me tell you. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but it isn't good either. All right. So the hurricane tornado situation here, lightning strikes actually are very dangerous too. That's another thing I've learned. I've had to learn how to survive here. And the scariest thing is the drivers, traffic. And there was actually a really major fatality. It's been in the news across the nation. It's illegal alien from India was driving a semi-rig very near to my home on the turnpike and tried to make an illegal U-turn, and 3 people crashed and died. So I know that road well. I avoid it like the plague. It's the only time I actually ever felt that I was going to die on the road was right there on the turnpike. And it's not funny. That's a nervous laugh. All right. I just want you to know there's nothing funny about driving here in Florida. I was recently in California too in June for my son's wedding, and yeah, there's bad traffic in Los Angeles area, obviously too. Southern California's, it's a bit of a racetrack, but there's just something about Southern Florida that I find extremely dangerous, disturbing, however you want to look at it. Anyway, today is the Malibu Mystery Tour, and so this is something I've been working on for decades. And I hope you enjoy it. It's kind of hard for me to express this because it's so personal. I keep working on this towards some sort of goal, which is to communicate clearly what I found and how I found it and what I think the implications are for mankind. And so I did a little appearance on television about this back in 2019. So let me share that brief little thing I did with you. Okay, it is here. And I go like this. Malibu has a history of UFOs that goes back to 1942, February 25th. There was what was called the Battle of Los Angeles. This particular event actually made headline news around the world.
Here is another UFO bulletin. The Defense Department has just announced that the unidentified flying object has suddenly disappeared from our radar screen.
There was multiple eyewitness accounts from multiple locations. People on the ground said that they saw these things, these UFOs, coming over Malibu, darting around the mountains. The people who actually saw the craft, and there was multiple craft, said that these were unconventional in every form and fashion. Sometimes they were illuminated, and they moved in ways that were simply impossible for conventional crafts. Most people that saw them said that these things were something they'd never ever seen before or since. Once the crafts passed over the mountains of Malibu, came towards the city, the military started firing on the crafts.
Because of the ominous situation, the President has ordered the Strategic Air Command into action.
Fired over 1,400 rounds at this craft. The craft were not phased one bit. A lot of people did get hurt. A lot of homes were damaged. Some people died. Even though Malibu was first noticed as a UFO spot in 1942, it's actually continued up until the present time. There is a consistency to these reports over the years. The shape of them is typically spherical. Sometimes they're seen going into the ocean. Sometimes they're seen coming out of the ocean. Sometimes they move in perfectly straight line. Other times they can just shoot off. The reason Malibu is a hotspot is because isolated areas seem to be a preferred location for UFOs and extraterrestrials to get up close and study us. It's pretty obvious that there's life beyond this world. It's just that we haven't officially found it yet.
We talked about it, we told all our friends, we talked about it for months, years. After a while, it was just, yeah, we saw a UFO, we were on the beach, and this is what it did. Because there was really no explanation for what else it could have possibly been.
And that was Jake Busey. I never met Jake, but I knew his dad, Gary Busey. Interesting character. Bumped into him quite a few times, different places out there in the west end of Malibu where I grew up. So what can I tell you that you haven't already heard me say, except this? This story really hasn't gained traction in the way I think it should. And that's why I'm giving you a more comprehensive report here down below. Again, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please go to robertstanley.substack.com and click on the article, Malibu Mystery Tour. And you'll see things there that you probably never even heard of or even dreamed of that actually exist in Malibu, my hometown where I grew up. I've traveled around the world. I've lived in New England and Hong Kong, California, obviously. And then now I'm in Southern Florida for now. Don't know where I'm going to go next. Not that I'm planning to. It's just funny how God has a way of shuffling me around to different parts of the world. So the main thing I want you to come away with here is this is our heritage. These artifacts, these events that have occurred in Malibu are part of our legacy as human beings living together on this planet. And I find it extremely troubling that someone or some group doesn't want us to know about our origins and these artifacts, and more importantly, about our relationship with whomever is flying these advanced type of aerospace craft. And yes, they do go in the water and they come out. They apparently have bases. You can link to an article down below. Finally, some government representatives are coming forward and admitting that there are so-called alien bases under the water. And this is, for people who experience it, this isn't news. The only difference is the fact that anyone in the government would want to acknowledge it or is willing to take the risk at this point. It's extraordinary that we're here, and it isn't going to stop here. However, once we and I've been saying this for decades, once we cross a certain threshold, there's no going back. And so actually, this is a public service announcement. You need to prepare yourself mentally and spiritually. We're dealing with something supernatural here too, by the way. It isn't all nuts and bolts. There is a spiritual component to this, as you can read in this comprehensive report that I'm providing on my Substack. And this show, such as it is, the way I formatted it, it really is at the crossroads of spirituality and the supernatural. And we're just trying to make sense of these things. This is how I got involved, was being one of the experiencers in Malibu that was having multiple close encounters, which ultimately led me to find these ancient ruins. They're megalithic statues. They're thousands of years old. Clearly, some civilization was there prior to the Chumash Indians, who were there for thousands of years. And I spoke to one of the elders, and he told me this is the work. When I showed him the pictures of these ancient stone monuments, he said, "Oh no, that's the work of the first people," what he called the Mu, and they were destroyed in a flood, which is something that's universally found around the world. Legends of a flood that altered the planet and obviously mankind. Maybe there was more than one of them, but certainly we know scientifically that the ocean levels rose about 200 feet in the past. I believe that was the end of the ice age. So naturally the water is going to rise as the ice melts. But the bottom line is this: I'm only one person, and I'm doing my best, but I have a life. So I'm learning how to present this information publicly incrementally. I'm getting better at this, and I have a lot of pieces of the puzzle. It's just presenting it in a way that's going to actually resonate with the public. So if you find this important or interesting, please share it. Not because I need the likes or whatever that is, that social media monster that everybody's trying to feed. No, it's more about understanding who we are, how we got here, where we're going. Putting things in the proper context. It's super important in my opinion. And hopefully you share that opinion, because this is not some conspiracy theory that I cooked up. There's something really extraordinary happening in Malibu, and it's not new either, by the way. It's too bad we really didn't get a chance to speak with the Chumash when they were intact. Although I'm not sure we would have had a clear line of communication. I'll give you an example. In Australia, when the Aborigines, when the Europeans went and took over Australia, the Aboriginal word called what we call kangaroo, it means I don't understand you. And somehow that got applied to a very unusual marsupial. And they're kind of cute, but they're also really dangerous. You don't want to mess around with them, especially the mothers when they have what they call a joey. I don't know who came up with that. Why would you call your baby a joey? But it's not. This is not unique to Malibu. There is all over the planet. There really are ancient artifacts that are enigmatic only because no one is taking the time to dig into it and understand it, put it in the proper context, or it's being hidden. Like Smithsonian, I've told you in the past, Smithsonian is famous for making artifacts disappear that are, I guess, inconvenient. I'm being polite now, okay? There is a political issue here. And I've learned over the years from research and experience that this is a legacy that is part of the aftermath of the war in heaven, what Hollywood calls Star Wars. That's a fictional way of saying something that really happened. And I think that explains a lot, including the stuff I found on Google Earth on the moon and other things that you'll see here. It's beyond belief, and I experienced it. I'm actually, discovered a lot of things along the way. But again, the reason I started doing research and reporting was because I experienced close encounters with alien spacecraft. That's the only way I can explain it, because I'm not stupid. I know what conventional craft are like. These were not helicopters or jets. Yes, some of them could be black budget projects or special access programs, but and I'm sure some of it is, but not everything that I experienced and other people have experienced, including Johnny Carson, by the way, who used to live on Point Doom. He allegedly told Whitley Strieber he'd seen something, and he wouldn't be the only one. There was other people. I lived near Point Doom, where I grew up there at Zuma Beach. People, whole families actually, back in the 1970s, used to go down to the beach there and watch UFO activity, sometimes going in and out of the water. But, it's, at one time when I was working security there at Zuma Beach, at the far end of the private end of the beach, where all the Hollywood people live or vacationed, UFOs appeared over the mountains just behind us. And then 2 military jets were scrambled from Point Mugu Naval Base to intercept, which they couldn't really do. And it was the UFOs really just outmaneuvered them, in the sense that as the jets came in and were screaming in there, I mean, so loud, everybody on the beach, and it was crowded that day. The thousands of people on the beach saw this, because they were startled by the military jets. And the UFOs just kind of went twinkle, twinkle, blink, and they were gone. And then the jets left, and then the UFO popped back in, twinkle, twinkle, boom, it's back. And so as it was happening, I was watching the whole thing, and I was trying to tell people, hey, are you checking this out? Do you see what's happening here? And one of my friends reacted really strangely. He literally buried his head down, like into the beach towel. And he's like, I don't believe this. I don't believe this. He was just like having I don't know what you call it, an episode. It's not just denial. He was like seriously panicked by it. But he like, I guess he figured, if I can't see it, then it's not really happening. I don't know. I didn't even ask him. I felt kind of bad for the guy. But a lot of people, I'm telling you, a lot of people saw it that day. And like I said, it's a very hot spot. One of the videos in my report, actually, hang on, I could probably show you that, couldn't I? Let's see real quick if I can get there. Sorry, you know what? I try and plan these things, but apparently I'm not really good at planning ahead, because I have so much material. It's ridiculous. Let's see. That's not it. It is somewhere else. And that's the problem. I need help. Here he is. Okay. Oh, what? Okay, I can't even get into my own website. Oh, there it is. No. Okay, that's weird. Sorry. I couldn't even get into my own Substack because I'm on a different browser. That is ridiculous. What is going on here? Hang on a second. I wonder if I can do this. Now I'm really upset. I don't know why how I could not be able to get into my own website. It said I had to subscribe. Look, if you go to my Substack and it tells you to subscribe, you don't have to do that, as far as I know. Okay, hang on. Here's what I can do. Oh, sorry. Huh. Oh, here we go. Okay, I know what I can do now. Hang on. Here's what we're going to do. Okay, hang on. I keep saying that, but this is annoying. All right, I'm going to share this video with you. I should have had it dialed up already. There we go. There we go.
Entire line.
Check it out. The Malibu coast lights up again. Thanks for joining us from around the world. This is Third Phase of Moon, and we are sharing to you incredible footage captured by Sherry and her friend Judy along the Malibu coast just past Zuma Point.
I really. Oh. It's still creating more. It's gonna go to the clouds. What's creating it though? Not sure. UFO, I think. Maybe. Here's a zoomed out view of the whole thing. Today is July 3rd. Yeah, 2016. That's so awesome. Whoa! It created some even farther down.
So she said it's July 3rd, 2016, in case you're paying attention and want to know. And the narrator also said it's Zuma Point. There's no such thing. So this is pretty close to where I had my encounters. You usually don't see this kind of activity during the day, but it does happen. This is actually very similar to it's close to Point Mugu Naval Base, which would be just north of this, where the so-called Malibu anomaly under the water is, allegedly a UFO base underwater. I disagree with that, and you'll see that in the report. But I mean, if you're watching this, you got to be wondering what is going on here, right? What in the world is going on? Let's see if I can do this full screen. Better for you. Yeah, much better. And this is going for quite a while, and there's no military response. But I don't think this is our stuff. And I have no idea why they're doing these maneuvers, but it seems to be very common. And the blinking in and out is very common also. Sometimes they merge together. Sometimes they'll merge together and multiply. But this blinking out thing is very typical because they are coming in and out of our atmosphere through wormholes or portals or whatever you want to call those windows. So even though they do have bases here, they really don't need a base per se, because they have this other technology or technique or whatever. It's really interesting too. See how there's like these sparkles jumping around? If you look real close, there'll be like these sparkles around them. I think those are what most people call orbs that are sent out as like sensor devices. Pretty amazing. And typically, just so you know, that now that thing just left our atmosphere entirely and came back. I've seen that. I have seen that up close. That is bizarre. It's so freaky when they do that. Yeah, the audio on this is not really helpful, but it's a really good video. I know there's more people that have seen stuff like this that they haven't come forward, because there's a lot of prominent people in Malibu, but at least there used to be. I don't know who lives there anymore. It's been a while since I set foot in that place. Look at that. Kind of merges together or not. It's just, I don't know. It's just, maybe that's an optical illusion, but they're clearly intelligently controlled. And these are not drones. Again, the energy field around them is the air being excited. That's called ionization, because their propulsion system is actually what they call, actually it's a field propulsion. Let me stop this. Field propulsion means that it radiates around the craft. They're enveloped in this energy bubble, and that's one of the things that actually protects them and does creates a, like a, well, it shields them from things outside, but I believe it also stabilizes the gravity inside because they do some incredible maneuvers, which would be impossible if you didn't have some way of controlling gravity. And they obviously do. Okay. Not just outside the craft, but inside the craft too. Yeah. So some of the encounters that we had there, it's not listed in this report, I'll just tell you, were they would actually beam a white light on us, directly on us. With it, I had various friends that I would bring there at different times, and usually at night. I mean, actually, that's the best way to see them. Obviously, it's hard to see things in the sky during the night, daytime, but at night, yes, there was more than one occasion where they literally would just, boom, the light would be on us, and very bright, no sound, and extremely disorienting. We knew it had to be coming from them because they were always around. But I mean, you didn't always see them. That was, I guess I should explain. They have the ability to be optically stealth. That's the other thing that they can do with that energy field that's around them. So whether it's nighttime or daytime, well, obviously they just turn off that light ionization process. Somehow they can maintain the gravity control, but they don't need the light is not like a light that guides them. I'm sure they're using something like radar, something similar to that, sensing their environment. But yeah, I know they're around. Even when we can't see them, they definitely are around. Man, I wish I had some more pictures for you guys. I swear I should have done this better. Sorry. There's a lot of examples I have of this, probably way too many examples of this. And if I could get into my Substack from this browser, I would. Anyway, here's the thing. At the bottom, at the very end of the report, Malibu Mystery Tour, there's another link to an article called UFO Phenomenon. UFO Photo Phenomenon. You click on that article and it will give you clear pictures of what I'm talking about. Sometimes they have literally been photographed and not seen. But photographs, I mean, the camera, the film is more sensitive to infrared radiation than our eyes. And that's why they put infrared filters in cameras. Because if you didn't have an infrared filter to filter it out, when you took a picture, you'd be like, what is this? This is not the picture I took. What's all this stuff? It wouldn't look like what our eyes normally see. The camera is more sensitive, right? And you would see all this weird hazy energy around everything. So that's a feature of cameras. They literally dumb down the cameras. It's more like our eyes. And that should tell you something about us, the way we're formatted. Most of the time we can't see this, that extra energy. And I'm telling you, if we did, we would see things. We would be seeing things that other people that didn't have abilities to see into infrared would be like, God, I don't know. What are you talking about? I don't see anything. Sometimes that's the case, even, if you just normally, I don't know how that works, but sometimes there has been reported examples where some people are standing there and they're like, wow, look at that. And other people they just simply don't see it for whatever reason. It's not because they're not looking. It's because there's part of them that they simply cannot tune into that frequency. And that's the word I was looking for. There's different frequencies of light and radiation coming off these craft all the time. So again, what is their intention though? I don't know. I can't go, really. We can only speculate. I can't say for sure, because as much as I wanted to have been wanting to interview someone from these craft, wherever they come from, apparently they don't want to have a public dialogue. And that's a major part of the problem. We can't just blame the government or the Vatican or whoever. it's really, I would put the onus, the responsibility, the blame in this case on the occupants of these craft. They're obviously intelligent. If they desire, they could have a conversation with us and not just some guy out in a cornfield at night, allegedly abducted, whatever. We can and need to someday have a conversation, a public conversation that's accurately documented, that's authentic, in order to ascertain what is their agenda, what is, like, if we're having this conversation, so where are you from, why are you here, how long you been here, why did you come, what is your relationship to us? And no matter what they say, I'm not going to believe it until it can be verified. And if it can't be verified, then I simply reject it. Because I'm highly suspicious. Again, they were following me around for years. They still could be, and I don't know it. All I know is that for years they were following me around, and on 2 occasions they actually demonstrated to me that they could read my thoughts, which was a very uncomfortable feeling, especially the first time it happened, because then it just shattered my world. Not that I have a bunch of secrets. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. We have the illusion of privacy on this planet, and when someone takes that away from you, I mean, I know we're all under surveillance, but that is a whole nother level. When it's demonstrated to you that someone can literally hear your thoughts, it's more than a little shocking. It's extremely disturbing, mainly because there's nothing I could do about it. As far as I could tell, well, it's like, whoa, excuse me? I don't have any privacy. Why would you be invading my privacy? I'm really, because you think about it, I don't know how you see yourself, but I mean, I'm just another person on this planet. I don't really feel extraordinary. I mean, yeah, I've had some really extraordinary experiences, like this report. The information I'm sharing with you, it's really extraordinary, but that doesn't make me extraordinary enough that I need to be surveilled by someone or something in these stealthy craft. It also seems once they start following you around, it's like they typically do that for a time. It's not like, oh, hey, hello, and then goodbye. It's that once they lock in on a person, they tend to want to continue that maybe it's a study, maybe I'm just a lab rat for them. I don't think so, but I'm just saying. I could speculate all day long, but it's not going to move the needle whatsoever. If you sense my frustration, that's good, because I'm not happy with this. This current situation is really not good. And it's not just about me. I'm saying for us, it isn't. I just don't see how it's not even a relationship. Think about it. If somebody was driving by, if you saw somebody driving around past your house and regular, and they'd stop and look at you, and you couldn't really see who they are, but they show up occasionally, and you're like, well, who is that? What do they want? It's unnerving. And I think personally, I think it's unethical, but that's just me, because I wouldn't treat anybody like that. I don't know. I just, sorry, I'm trying to figure this studio out too. It's starting to work better, but I think I need to plan these things out a little bit more, like test it out before. The fact that I can't get into my own Substack is kind of weird. All right. Anyway, Yeah, the ruins in Malibu have a lot of people wondering who did that, but they don't want to discuss it publicly because what's there to discuss? Honestly, I think that's the biggest problem here. We can't talk to anyone from that far in the past. Any records pertaining to it they're either hidden or lost. So a lot of it is again speculation. I'll tell you this much because it's not in the report. It's in my memoir, which I'm working on, believe it or not, still. I'll just tell you this. Look, when I was a kid growing up there at Zuma Beach, I had recurring lucid dreams. And where I was in my neighborhood, and sometimes I would find myself going up to the mountains. And I knew where I was. I don't know why, but I've always had a very good sense of orientation based on landmarks, I guess you call it, like Point Magoo Naval Base. But anyway, I in my dreams, oftentimes I would find myself, I was either with the Native American Chumash Indian, or I was with another group of people that I'd never even heard of, and I couldn't understand. In history books, I would have to say they reminded me of what I'd read about Greek people in the Mediterranean, wearing like white robes and sandals and having boats down by the ocean. And but there was other times when I would find myself going up into the mountains and there were these temples. And there was people there, not a lot, but there was people there, and I would engage with them and have lessons. They were teaching me things that I can't quite articulate to you now, but I guess it was preparing me for what would come later in life, outside of, obviously not a dream. It was in real life. But sometimes dreams are not just fantasy or fiction or whatever you call imagination. They're it's a form of communication. That's all I'm trying to say. All right. So I considered it to be my night school. Sometimes I would go there and get instructions, and ultimately, when I was old enough, I did go there when I was 25 and had a close encounter with a being that I would now have to say was God. And I was given instructions, clear instructions there that I'm unfortunately unable to explain to you right now for whatever reason. I can only describe bits and pieces of it. There's a link to that on the article too. What led to that, I'll just briefly tell you, if you hadn't heard me say this before, that I was being energetically attacked for saving a boy's life earlier that day on the equinox, September 21st, 1985. And as a result of saving his life, the spiritual parasites that were around the boy started attacking me. It's sort of like when you hit a hornet's nest, that's not a great analogy, but the bottom line is they started attacking me. And I could feel it. Even though I couldn't fully see them, I felt it. And that's why I ended up going up onto the mountain that night and meditating or praying or whatever you want to call it, and having an out-of-body experience and meeting God. I know that sounds very trivial, trite, whatever you want to call it, but it happened, all right? It did, it happened. So that's why I went back to that location, hoping to have another encounter with this Christ-like being, and not knowing who he was, or who he is. And that's when I started finding these ancient megalithic ruins and walls and things. And I was like, wait a second, wait. this is the place I dreamed about when I was a kid. I recognized it. And that was, man, you talk about deja vu. I was so shocked. It still kind of floors me when I think about it. I just, so anyway, maybe that's part of the problem. I've been trying to make sense of this for decades. And so presenting it can be a little confusing for people that are listening to this or reading these reports. But I know increasingly that people are asking questions about everything, and including our ancient history. And I think we deserve answers. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I have quite a few clues, and there's some areas that need work. So I'll tell you one of the weirdest dreams too. After I had that close encounter, when I had that out of body experience up in the mountains, like a few weeks later, I was having a lucid dream where I was back at my home at Zuma Beach. At the time, I wasn't living there, okay, but I was living in Santa Monica. But I had this lucid dream where I was back at my house, overlooking Zuma Beach, and I was just, it felt so real too. I mean, it was like really being there, and it was a sunny day, and I felt very happy. And for some reason, I looked up, and was it to the east, and I saw 3 UFOs coming, glowing silently, moving over the house, heading out towards the ocean and entering the water. And I was stunned. I mean, I was just like, what is this? And moments later, when they passed over the house, they were silver colored light coming off of them. And when they entered the water, and moments later, when they came out of the water, going the opposite direction back the way that they came, and they were now glowing a golden color. And as they were passing over the house, sorry, messing with the camera. My dad had a studio there. He was an artist, and he had a studio. And as they're passing on, I just yelled, I go, Dad, come check this out. There's UFOs. I don't know. I thought he would come out and see it. Instead, what happened? There was a white flash of light, and there, standing next to my dad's studio, was this God, this Christ-like being was standing there. And I didn't even hesitate. I just went over and I gave him a hug, and then I woke up, and I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? What is this stuff? That, I mean, it was such a conundrum. It took me a long time to understand some things. I'm still working on it. Just like this microphone is driving me nuts. I probably shouldn't have done this, but I saw somebody else hanging it. I thought it'd be cool. It seems interesting, but yeah, it's kind of in the way. Weird. Tinkering. I'm just tinkering. So anyway, I'm just telling you that there's been a lot of strange experiences, and I'm not the only one, obviously, that has gone through this. It's just, or I'm still going through it, trying to make sense of it. I can tell you that God is real, and he is a multidimensional being, and he does have technology, and his angels, so-called, now we're calling them aliens. We used to call them gods and angels or whatever, but they also exist, and they are interacting with us in ways that we cannot conceive of. It's just, again, proving this. I'm just telling you, this is my understanding at this point. It's taken me a long time to articulate this in a way that I have any kind of certainty, because it's such a huge question mark. how do we validate these things? Well, historically, there's a record of our interaction with these beings, and they're not, alien is not the right word, because that just means foreigner. I mean, there's plenty of people that we consider foreigners on this planet, but they're not from off planet. So some people call them non-human intelligences or extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional beings. But the bottom line is we're all related. I mean, we really are. We're all family. And you can't change that, even if you wanted to. I don't know why anybody wanted, other than, those on the dark side, the satanic forces clearly want to separate us. They're adversarial towards God and all of us who are part of God's family still, who remain in having a relationship with God, and angels who are still loyal. I mean, that was a huge part of the what do you call it, the war in heaven. Supposedly, and this is an estimate, a third of the angels fell into rebellion or insurrection, whatever you want to call it. So that is part of our legacy as well, that is being denied. A lot of churches do not acknowledge this. And that's why I'm not religious, because there's a lot of naivete or simply denial that's going on about the supernatural nature of God and God's creation and our role in that. That's why I said this show has evolved as I've evolved, but I'm focused on this, being at the crossroads of spirituality and the supernatural. I think that's where we're going to find a lot of answers, and that's where I'm going to stay until such time that I have to move on to something else. But it seems like that's my zone, I guess you call it. So I think that concludes another Salvation Report. Until next time, may God bless you always and in all ways. Good night. Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. Here comes God's son, and I say, it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since he's been here. Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. Here comes God's son, and I say, it's alright. Little darling, the smiles returning to the faces. Little darling, it seems like years since he's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes God's son, and I say, it's alright. Sun, 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 here he comes. 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 Little darling, I feel that ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since he's been here. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo. Here comes God's Son, and I say, it's alright. It's alright.